wish, and a strong belief in government and the mainstream media. It is estimated that 1 out of every 2 children are being raised by parents infected with the sheeple virus. But there is a cure. For as little as 19 cents per day, you can become a TFR supporter and help children like me get their daily dose of truth. Together, we will make sure every child has protection from deception.
A cardinal found guilty. Hanoi Summit. I'm Evan Haining. The most senior Catholic cleric ever charged with child sex abuse has been convicted in Australia. Correspondent John Stolness reports on the guilty verdict that has just been revealed.
Cardinal George Pell was convicted in Australia of molesting 2 13-year-old choir boys moments after a celebration of Mass back in 1996. A jury delivered a unanimous verdict against him back on December 11th after deliberating for more than 2 days. Details about the trial emerged today after the court had forbidden any information from being released to the public until now.
Pell is the Vatican treasurer and was a close advisor to Pope Francis before Francis quietly removed him from his council of advisors for, quote, reasons of advancing age in December. As President Trump and North Korea's Kim Jong-un make their way toward a summit in Hanoi, correspondent Will Ripley says South Koreans are discussing diplomatic moves in exchange for Kim taking more steps toward denuclearization.
The U.S. said it could happen within a year. Then they've kind of been extending it further and further. And while analysts have always thought that it was unrealistic to think that Kim would give up nukes right up front, to think that there could be an end to the Korean War and steps toward normalizing relations with the U.S. without a single concession in terms of denuclearization, certainly surprising to a lot of people.
Meantime, correspondent Abby Phillip reports the president's national emergency declaration to build the wall will face its first major test in Washington tomorrow.
House Democrats plan to vote on a resolution that could undo it. Trump still insisting that there is an emergency at the border.
We do have an emergency. We have an emergency of people pouring into our country that we don't want.
The Securities and Exchange Commission is asking a federal court to hold Tesla contempt for violating an agreement that required him key company information reviewed for potentially misleading claims. Wall Street gains today. The Dow added 60 points, S&P up 4, the Nasdaq rose 1. I'm Evan Haining.
Wherever you are, make it Truth Frequency Radio.
Astronauts to the moon.
Ten, 9, ignition sequence start. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2.
Not to get off track here, but I feel like we're in the Truman Show, and we're in a snow globe, and they just shook it up.
Welcome to reality.
Because Dave said he wanted me to. He wanted a new intro, and Dave is not joining me this week. So I changed it, and we'll probably change it back next week just to piss him off. So, yes, that's what I do. Yes, Dave is unfortunately, he's on vacation. Well, unfortunately for me and you, but not for him. He's in some island paradise. If you didn't get a chance to see his video earlier today, he was basically showing off his kite surfing skills. So you might want to check that out on his DITRH channel if you want to see him kite surfing the flat water. So check that out. So, yes, thank you guys for joining me. I really appreciate it. To everyone in the YouTube chat as well as those in the TFR chat, welcome to the show. Happy you're joining me. Riding solo tonight, and so I'm going to be talking about Behind the Curve. Boom, boom. The quote-unquote documentary that has hit Netflix recently, causing quite an uproar. Everyone's saying that I haven't addressed it, even though I have numerous times, both on this show and my YouTube channel, as well as on Glowbusters. So there's probably hours of me discussing it, but people can't look, and they just have to come to comment sections and say, hey, how come why you're not commenting on this video? or this movie, whatever. Well, one of the reasons that I didn't think I needed to address it is because it's a movie. See how that worked? It's a movie. So anyway, where are the people saying, Jeran, you haven't addressed First Man yet? You know, the movie with Ryan Gosling. Yeah, well, I haven't addressed that yet because it's a movie. A terrible one, by the way. I don't know if you've seen it yet. I tried watching it twice and fell asleep the equal amount of times. Also fell asleep twice. Terrible movie. But one interesting thing, I don't know if you guys noticed this, Best Man, First Man actually got an Oscar. Got an Oscar this past week for Best Visual Effects. Best Visual Effects for First Man. Also, if you want to see something before they take it away, if you just type in First Man and do any Google search engine or whatever you want, you'll see it comes up on the right side with all the information about the movie, and it says, funny enough, drama/science fiction. So the science fiction film First Man got Best Visual Effects. I don't know about you. I find that kind of funny. So, so the first half of the show, we're going to be talking about that amongst some other things. And then the second half of the show, if you guys are listening on YouTube, you'll need to click in the description to move over to Ginger Sugar Bush 905's channel, where we'll be covering the second half of the show. I also wanted to address some concerns I've heard or questions I get. One of those being, Jeran, why won't you take calls in the first half of the show on the YouTube? They said, we could have the YouTube. Well, that should be kind of clear, but I guess maybe people don't understand that. I used to do some phone call shows where I would just answer calls and answer questions. The problem with that is that people can call in, and believe me, they're out there, and believe me, they would call in and just say something extremely racist, just to throw an N-word out there or whatever they could, and then immediately my channel would get a community guideline strike, and Jeranism, the YouTube channel, will be all bye-bye. So what we do is we talk about Flat Earth and some other fun things here during this first hour, and then I move over to TFR, where there is no trouble. If somebody wants to call in and be a jerk, they can do that, and it would not jeopardize my channel. So just letting you know, that's why I don't do that. I also used to, I don't know if people remember, I used to have things on the screen, like when somebody subscribed to me, it would pop up their name on the screen. Thank you, so-and-so, for subscribing. Well, there's some pathetic people out there that learned, hey, well, we'll go create some sock puppet account, which for those who don't know what that means you can go on Google and just open up a new account under some fake name. Of course, they'd put a bunch of racist nonsense in there, and then they would subscribe to my channel. And what that would do is bring up their name on the screen, which would be some sort of racist rant, and then I would get a strike for that too. So I'm just being safe. And also, thank you very much. I see some super chats coming in. I'll read those momentarily. One of them, the moon is now in our atmosphere, Rhino. I know, isn't that great? Check out Red Pill Philosophy. I think his video is one of the best I've seen so far on that. We also talked about it on Globebusters. And then Authentic.life said, keep it up, Jeran. Thanks for your work. Hey, appreciate that. Thank you so much for watching and listening and sharing my videos. Also, a real quick talk about, this is another video I saw. I'm not going to mention the channel, but there was a video that I was sent, and in there somewhere it says, Jeran's so ridiculous. He says that race doesn't exist. It's like, come on, guys. I never said that. People take things out of context. They don't understand what I'm saying. What I said was that racism is a joke, and it's a trick to get people to hate each other. And if you understand that, then you can understand so much. And I guess I could describe that real quick. What I mean by it's a trick is because, I have a 18-year-old son, and let's say that in a couple years he marries a black woman, okay? And they together have a child, and let's say that child is mostly dark-skinned, appears to be a black child. And then that person or that child marries another black person, and they have a black baby. Well, we're talking about 2 or 3 generations away from me, and then my race is then black. So there is no such thing as race. And if you just back up, if I just said in 3 generations, well, I don't know what was going on 4 generations ago, 5 generations ago. How would I know what race I was then? So what I'm saying is that racism is just another way that has been implemented by the rulers of the world. You can call them the rulers of this country. You can call them whatever you want. But what it is it's just another way for people to hate each other and not look above at what's holding everybody down or what's causing that idea of racism. And that's the truth. And they've known this for a long time. If let's say I'm the ruler of some group of 30 people, and let's say I'm not a very good ruler, that I've got some, I don't know, tyrannical things I do. And basically, in order for those people to not just all gather together, all 30 of them, and look up at me and say, hey, that guy's not a very good leader, we should probably get rid of him. What better way than to implement some sort of thing where these 30 people now fight between each other? So I create a right and a left. I create two political parties, and I say, you have to assign yourself to one of these. Or I'm going to put 5 or 6 ideas of colors of skin in this group, and then put a bunch of things on the news, put a bunch of things in the media that makes these groups of people think that they're hated or that they hate each other, when it's all just nonsense. It's just not. So when I say racism or race doesn't exist, I don't think I ever said that, but I'm not going to tell you the channel because I don't want to promote people like that. But I just wanted to say that because I just mentioned race. So anyway, let's continue on. Also, if you didn't get a chance to watch the video I put out earlier today, I think it's a very good video for a lot of reasons. But one thing that you may not have noticed in that video, and the video I'm talking about is called How to Mail a Letter for 2 cents. And one thing that people may have not noticed is I did not put anywhere in that video the word flat earth. It's not in the description. It's not in the tags. It's not in the title. And I never mentioned the words flat earth throughout the entire video. The reason I did that is because I'm thinking of ways to kind of increase viewership and increase the possibility that my videos get shared. So, for example, if you're somebody out there that is starting to pay attention to flat earth, you're starting to listen to it, but you're not ready yet to share videos about flat earth with friends, with family, with your social media, well, this is a video where you can just post it and say, hey, this guy figured out a way to send mail within the United States, which is actually without the United States. If you're talking about the 50 states in the United States, watch the video for more details. But if you're somebody like that, then you can mail that out, or not mail it, but you can share it with your social media or on Facebook or Twitter or Instagram, whatever you want, and you can just say, hey, this guy figured out a way to mail letters for 2 cents. And that's all you have to do. And then you just kind of leave it in their hands. They're going to watch the video, and the hope is that by the end of it, they say, hey, I like this guy. Maybe I'm going to check out his other videos. And that's the goal there. So just kind of thinking of ways. I've also got some other ones I want to do on distilled water, on fluoride. There's a lot of videos I can do like that that I think will help people within the community, without the community, and then also help share the flat earth a little bit further. So maybe somebody sees that, says, hey, this seems like a good idea, and then says, I wonder what else this guy has to say, and they can read about the other myriad of ways that we're being lied to. Hey, Flat Earth Vegans, awesome. The Earth is flat, Jeran. See you in Dallas. Can't wait. We will go to dinner at another Mexican restaurant. Awesome. Sounds good. I'll let you guys buy me a margarita. And hopefully you don't win Flat Earth Couple again. I'm going to put in a word that nobody should win it 2 years in a row. I'm just kidding. You guys probably deserve it more than anybody. So thank you guys so much. Appreciate you always checking out the show, and you guys always being in the chat. Really appreciate it. So, so check out that video I did today. Basically, you can mail a letter as long as you don't put the zip code and as long as you don't put the state abbreviation. You can mail a letter for 2 cents. Again, for all the details, check out my latest video that is from today, February 25th, called How to Mail a Letter for only 2 cents. So I did see some people asking questions about, is this a flat rate? What is the deal? How much does it cost if you go over that amount? As far as I could tell, as far as I could see, it is 2 cents per half ounce. So if you go over that half ounce, then I would add another 2 cents. And if you go over 1 ounce, then I would add another 2 cents, and so on and so forth. But a letter or a postcard, you're fine with 2 cents. I've done it. I've sent it. It was pretty funny because I was talking to David Weiss about it. Everybody knows DITRH, the co-host of the show, who's currently on vacation. But, I was talking to him about it and saying, hey, this guy keeps sending me, and he said, no, bullshit, there's no way, can't be done. So then I mailed him a letter, and now he will shut up about that and say, oh, you're right, you can mail a letter for 2 cents. It is possible. So for all the details on that, check out my channel and my latest video. All right, so let's move along a little bit. I was just thinking in my head, getting back to the idea of race real quick. One thing that people don't realize, I don't know if people realize this, but all you have to do to see how crazy it gets is to figure out, so many generations ago, how many grandparents you had. And it just gets ridiculous, because I've got myself, right? That's one. And then I've got 2 parents. All right, we got that. And then before them was 4 grandparents. All right, we got that. So you have to keep doubling that number. So if you have 4 grandparents, you have 8 great-great-grandparents. Okay, well, you've got 16 great-great-great-grandparents. And we're only 4 generations back. So if you go to the 5th generation, you're at 32 grandparents. 6th generation, 64. 7th generation, 128. 8th generation, 256. 9th generation, 512. And at 300 years ago, so we're only at 300 years ago with the 10th generation, that is 1,024 grandparents. And if you think you know what race they were, and they were all white and they were all black, and you're confusing yourself. You don't understand. And then once you start going beyond just the 300 years, it gets ridiculous because you have to keep doubling that number to 2048, to 4096, to 8192, to 380 something, 32,000 after that. So add another 200 years. So when you're only 500 years back, you have 65,536 grandparents. Well, when you start counting everybody else on Earth and you realize that they all have the same number as they go backwards, before you know it, you're at more than the population was at that time. So, at 500 years, you're at 65,000. Then think how fast it goes from there. Then it would go to 131, then to 262,000, then 524,000, and then over 1 million grandparents. And we're talking less than about 600 years ago. That is ridiculous. So when people actually look at what's out there, they'll find that what we've been told and what we're being taught and about this racism and all that, it's just nonsense, That's the way I feel about it. So anyway, just wanted to cover that real quickly. But now let's get into the topic of the show for now, before we get to phone calls. And again, if you want to get in line to get your phone call in, let me get that screen up just so we have it up there. There you go. 213-233-3998 or 866-26-TRUTH. Either of those numbers will get you in line. You'll just hear me talking for a while, for about the next 45 minutes if you call in now. But you will be guaranteed to get on the show. The lines do get pretty packed. Last week we ended with 6 or 7 people on hold. So we'll try and get to those calls tonight. And I'll try and breeze through them quickly, try and get everybody on. So if you want to wait till then, you can do that as well. Again, the number's 213-233-3998. All right, we got a couple other super chats from Renee Calicia. Thank you, Renee, so much. I always see you super chatting. Flat Earther are ahead of the imaginary curve. Love is bombarding children's website with Flat Earth. Excuse me. All right. So let me talk about Behind the Curve, and I'm going to mention a few people throughout this that make sure everybody knows who I'm talking about. The producers of the movie, which I believe are from the company Delta V, are Caroline Clark and Daniel Clark, who, once I found out both their last names, I said, hey, I didn't know you guys were, what are you, brother and sister, husband and wife? No, they told me that they have no relation. So that may be true. Just what a weird coincidence to have the two producers of the movie with the same last name, even though they have no relation. Could be true, could not. Just thought it was an interesting little tidbit. So if I refer to Daniel or Caroline, you will know who I'm talking about. So the story begins with me getting a phone call from, I don't remember if it was Caroline or Daniel, but basically somebody called me and said, hey, we hear you're doing an experiment over at a canal somewhere in California. We would love to come film it. And I said, oh, that would be awesome. I said, I was trying to worry about how I'm going to film it. And they said, oh, no, we got a whole camera crew. We got lights. We got all this equipment. And so we would love to come film it. My opinion was at that time, how awesome is that? I wouldn't have to worry about filming it. I would have a documentary crew, camera crew that would be filming it for me. That sounded perfect to me. And so we went out there the first time and we tried to do the test as I described on Globebusters. Maybe you've seen the movie, but the expander, which is a metal, kind of expander beam that screws onto the top of the laser. One thing that we had never tested was leaving that on there while the power was on the laser, because when you get one of those lasers, if you've ever used one, and I don't remember if we used a 3-watt or a 5-watt, whatever it was, one of the rules or one of the warnings on those things is to not leave them on very long because they get extremely, excuse me, frog in my throat. They get extremely hot. And so, I would turn it on for 30 seconds and turn it off and make sure that it never got too hot. But when we were out there that actual night doing the observation, we were trying to move the laser from 4 miles away and get somebody on the other end to see it. It was extremely difficult because if I barely nudged the laser on my side a little bit, it would move, some 10 feet or something down 4 miles away. So it was very difficult, but a lot of the time we had to have the laser on. Well, at one point, it was probably on for 2 minutes or so, and I realized, I got to turn that off. I turned it off. And then when we couldn't get the beam down enough, I needed to adjust the beam expander. Well, trying to do that, I realized, oh, shit, this thing is melted on here. So the actual beam, expander was melted to the laser itself. It couldn't come off anymore. So that created a lot of problems. It was pretty upsetting. And then we went to the North Carolina conference. Also, Daniel and Caroline both went to that conference. I was mic'd up for a majority of the day I spoke. None of that footage appeared in the documentary. And also, when they came by as well, we talked on the porch for a little bit. I was kind of showing them the laser and what we were going to be doing. One of the things that I was upset about in watching that movie was there was one scene, and I'll just show you real quick. I don't want to do too much because Daniel and Caroline will surely strike me if I show any portion of that video, so I'll make sure that I don't do that. But where is... Okay, hold on. Okay. So you may have seen this scene in the movie. It just flipped real quick to this scene after I was talking. They were on my porch, and we were talking about these lasers. And then I said, a laser that you would use for a cat is around a certain level, and this one's this much more. And then they show this scene. The scene just cuts to this, and these cats are running around, and this house is held up by some sort of cinder blocks or whatever. But this is my neighbor's house, and I thought that was pretty dirtball of them to make it look like it certainly appeared in the movie. I would think anybody who watched it would think that this was my house, and it certainly is not my house. So, I was upset about that part to start, but then more upset was the fact that after everything was said and done, so we're talking about both experiments are complete, and when I say both, it's because we went back out a second time to again try the observation. And originally when I walked away from the second observation, I was upset at myself more than anything. The reason for that is because, and I even remember apologizing to Daniel because they had come out 2 times, the camera crew, and one time we had an equipment malfunction, and the second time we couldn't keep the proper beam diameter. So I said to him, I'm sorry, I was upset because I thought it would be easy for them, and in all honesty, to show that our experiment failed and how silly we looked doing so. So I really thought the whole time after they left, I'm like, man, this is going to be pretty shitty when the movie comes out, because if anything, they're just going to show, hey, here's Jeran, and he couldn't complete this experiment. That's what I thought. So I was telling myself at the time, if I would have done some pre-tests to make sure the observation would work, that I could have possibly protected myself from being used in a movie to show flat earthers at times failed experiments, which is what actually happened to us, right? So what I never considered at any time is that they would be able to take out a piece of the observations that we made that evening and be able to twist it in a way that would, instead of showing the truth that really our experiment failed in a few different ways, that instead it worked and showed the curvature of the Earth. I was never for a moment even concerned about that possibility because it's a blatant lie. And how convenient for Daniel and Caroline that now that the movie is done and now that they have blatantly lied about my experiment, that all of a sudden they have to go back on their word and not allow me to have the other footage. So what I was getting at before is when I spoke to them after that final experiment, I said, hey, can I get some footage? Because if people remember, I did a couple lead-up videos to the fact that we were going to do this observation, told my subscribers, told my channel about it. Then we went out and did the observation, and then I went back and asked them, hey, can I have some of that footage so that I can show people the observations that we made and that we were out at the canal and this and that? And they said, oh, you know what, we're really sorry, but until we sell the movie, we don't know who we're going to sell it to. And until we sell the movie, we can't give out any of the footage. I said, well, how long is that going to take? And they said, we don't know. It could be 6 months, could be a year. So I was pretty upset, but I said, well, you know what? Eventually, and I thought it would be kind of funny if a bunch of Globers all got on their little high horse and said, Jeran never did this experiment. He never did. I said, that's fine. I don't care if it waits a year. When I finally come out and say, hey, here's the footage that was filmed by this, this documentary crew, that they would all look like idiots and have egg on their face because obviously we did the experiment and we did the observation that night. Well, this is what happened. The next thing that I hear is when they finally, sell the movie. I think I heard that it was going to come out on iTunes or whatever. Then I contacted them and said, hey, can I get that footage now? It's a year later, and you guys told me I could have it. And they said, oh, we're so sorry. The contractual obligations that are part of the selling of the movie say that we can't give out any of the other footage. So at this point, now I'm upset. Now I'm like, oh, wait a second. You told me that I'd be able to see some of this footage. And remember, at this point, I still have not seen the movie. I think I saw a bootleg version, and I heard, Mark Sargent and, Patricia Steer, a couple other people telling me about it, and they told me that it ended with a scene with me saying interesting. I couldn't even remember what they were talking about because again, we're talking about an experiment from a year before. And I don't want to call it an experiment. We were trying to make an observation. That's what we were trying to do. So I was upset and said, man, how could they go back on their word and say, now I can't have this footage? Well, when I finally saw the film, that's when I realized, oh, now I see why you won't let me have any of the footage, because the footage that you have, the additional footage, would prove exactly what I've said or what I will say in this movie, which is that they pulled an out-of-sequence, small little observation from the middle of everything and placed it at the end of their movie as if it proved something. And again, there was people there. There's probably 20 people there, maybe 25 at the most. And of those, there was probably 3 Globe believers. One in particular, I can't remember his name, but he kind of was right behind me the whole time. And all of us, and I'm talking all 25 of us, walked away from that experiment or that observation at the end of that night and said nothing was proven. Nothing could have been, nothing was like replicated or duplicated. We weren't seeing consistent results. There was a little bit of this, a little bit of that. And so, all of a sudden, when I see how they ended that movie, I'm like, oh man, these guys are dishonest as it gets. And so since then, I've been trying to get them to either write a statement. We've gone back and forth in emails, and I'll actually read you an email that I sent to them when we get back from break. And then also it's basically the email of me asking them to make the statement that I give them. So I give them a statement. They refuse. They say they're not going to read that statement. And then they finally write back their official statement. And again, when I read these both, so you'll hear my statement and then you'll hear theirs, you'll see the problem that, number one, they won't dare mention that they promised to give me any of the footage, even though they actually did. This is all really upsetting for me, because one of the things that happened is when we went to North Carolina, I was one of the very few people that had yet to sign the contract or whatever, basically giving them rights to what they filmed. And the reason I didn't sign it is because I was worried. I said, I don't know if I can trust these guys to portray the Flat Earth community correctly. But, I talked to Mark Sargent. He said, well, they came over and just filmed me talking, seemed fine. Patricia said the same thing. Bob said the same thing. Yeah, they just came over and filmed me. They were, they seem like great people. They seem like they're on the up and up. And in North Carolina, both Daniel and Caroline took me aside separately and said, hey, we'd really like you to sign this, and that we really want to portray the Flat Earth movement in all honesty. We want to do this on the up and up. We want to do this in all truth. And I bought in. And I said, okay, sounds like these guys want to do a good job, that they want to make a good movie, and I want to contribute. So I signed it, and the rest is history. So so when we get back from a break here shortly, I'll go into a little bit more detail, and then I'll read those 2 statements. But what was really scary is, when I realized that even if I did a successful test or a successful observation, and we showed something incredible, that they could have done the exact same thing. So that's the worst part about it, is I was beating myself up for a year saying, man, if I just would have made sure that we touched on, we dotted all our I's and crossed our T's, and that, everything, we went out there before and actually made sure the observation was the way we expected it to be, that they would come out and film that. But now I realize that even if that was the case, they still could have taken any part that they wanted. Me saying, interesting, and put that at the end of the movie as if it proved anything. So it wouldn't have mattered that even if our observation, showed Flat Earth results and could be duplicated, that they could have taken any part of that observation and spun it in the way that they did. So now I have a whole new perspective, and I learn from my mistakes. And I should have had somebody there filming every second that they were filming me, and I will do that in the future. So if in the future, if I get asked again, hey, will you do this or will you do that? I'm going to make sure that I have the whole thing filmed. Don't go anywhere. We have another bit on the YouTube channel. See it. Be right back.
The reviews for Extendivite are amazing. Here are some from Amazon. By Christine, great for heart palpitations. By Anne, before I started using this product, every afternoon my ankles and my hands would be swollen. That doesn't happen anymore. So if that part of their advertising is true, I have to assume that the rest of it is also. Not to mention that when I had my yearly blood test, only a few weeks after beginning to use this product, my cholesterol had dropped over 30 points. I'm going to continue to take it. By Croc, I love this product. It Really Works by Brad. Works great, thank you. Tell us your story. Get your Extendivite today. To order, call 1-877-928-8822. That's 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendivite.
Hey folks, guess what the number one phrase that Life Change Tea receives by email? You ready? We love this tea. We love this tea. Time after time, week after week, we love this tea. Life Change Tea gives you more energy, a beautiful cleansing, and fulfills its slogan perfectly. The tea that makes you go. So if you want to be on your health game, log on to getthetea.com and order Life Change Super Strength Tea. Packages come in a 1-month supply, and when you brew this stuff, wait until you see the results. Aren't we all about the results? And with a lot of people's health struggling, we can use a little bit of help. Doctors will tell you disease starts in the gut. So log on to getthetea.com. That's getthetea.com. Be our next email saying, I love this tea. I love this tea. Get the tea at getthetea.com. Helping America one tea bag at a time.
Hey everyone, it's Mark Sargent from Strange World, broadcasting live every Tuesday evening, 10 to 12 Eastern, 7 to 9 Pacific, right here on True Frequency Radio. Strange World covers a wide range of topics, from enclosed world theory to lunar waves to the end of the world in film. It's basically doomsday with a silver lining. With the audience as my co-host, we take an optimistic approach to all things conspiracy and promote confidence, hope, and humor whenever possible. If there's a topic you want us to cover or a guest you would like to see interviewed, please email me at msargent23@comcast.net. So please join me and tell your friends about Truth Frequency Radio, the leader in real radio programming, bringing you quality, cutting-edge broadcasts from around the world.
You're listening to the Truth Frequency Radio Network.
No hate, no hype, no fear.
All right, welcome back. You are listening to Jeranism Monday Night Raw. Thank you for joining me, everyone. I appreciate it so much, and I appreciate my patrons more than I can even say. Thank you guys so much. You help make this channel possible. If it wasn't for you guys, I wouldn't be able to do nearly as much as I'm doing. Also, a thank you to the Super Chats. I see one from Conflectiz. Thank you. Appreciate that so much. You guys are awesome. And another one from Renee Calosia saying, we are making a documentary on the people ahead of the curve. Flat Earth defends itself. Hey, I totally agree with that. Thank you so much, Renee, for an additional super chat. I really appreciate it. So let's get back to talking about Behind the Curve. As I said before, we went to break. I could have easily handled it if they put me in. I'm okay with that because it's true. Sure, it's not personally satisfying to fail like we did. But my channel has been and always will be about the truth, no matter where it leads. And also, my channel is about a search for the truth. So that's all that I want out of my channel, and that's all that I want out of any documentary that I'm in or any news piece that I'm in, is just portray me accurately. That's it. I'll always learn from my mistakes. So, yeah, our observations were varied, and ultimately, some of the observations we made were thought of ad hoc when our primary experiments or primary observations failed. But we know that National Geographic and these film producers will never show the Monterey Bay mirror observation, or any of the other observations that we do. So now we will just continue these other observations, and we'll get them down so that we can relay them and give the exact distances and the exact setup, and then I'll ask for everyone to come. And at that point, they can come out and film the observations we make, and we'll make sure we film simultaneously, and then we can see how they're going to go about spinning that. But it's sad. I mean, we're making observations daily that are impossible on a globe. So, of course, this is one of the biggest lies there is, and we're never going to be taken seriously. And I think that's, this is why it's so upsetting that this divides the community, is I've seen so many people, even in the Flat Earth community, saying, Globebusters is shills and Jeran's a shill, and they got paid for being in this documentary. Just a whole bunch of nonsense, and it makes you guys look bad because it's completely untrue. Same thing with a recent article I read, I think on The Independent, that said that Logan Paul was paid to be a speaker at the Flat Earth Conference, which is completely and totally 100% untrue. In fact, it's the complete opposite. He and his posse, if you will, all paid full price for VIP tickets. Certainly wasn't anything that Flat Earth paid for or that they wanted at the event. No, they couldn't care less. But he wanted to be there. He paid to be there. And then once he was there, Robbie asked him if he'd like to speak, and he chose to get up and speak. That's on him. But there certainly was no other ulterior motives, and that's not what you get in the mainstream. And it's never going to be. Flat Earth is never going to be taken seriously because it is the ultimate deception. We've all been taught from the tiniest of ages that Flat Earth is ridiculous. In commercials, you see the boat going over the edge. We were all taught about, people thought it was flat because they thought that if you just kept sailing that way that you'd fall off the edge. And then good old Columbus came along and said, well, maybe it's a globe. And they went, sailing, and then they came back, and people realized that it was a globe. It's just such nonsense. Anyway, the only thing that they can do is ridicule us and make fun of Flat Earth and misrepresent any observation and keep showing Neil deGrasse making an ass of himself, keep showing Bill Nye saying the same things over and over again, and all these websites that come out with the top 10 reasons that Flat Earth is false, and they keep going back to these same observations that we've now debunked, like boats going over the curve and things that just aren't true. So it's their only weapon, and truth is their enemy, and deception is the only avenue that they can take. So going forward, at least in the future, I will always expect deception. That's just what I'm going to do, always. And so for anybody out there in the Flat Earth community that has been approached to be interviewed or anything, I go with the Rob Skiba. He gives some advice. He said whenever they film him, he makes sure he has somebody filming the entire thing. And that would have saved me from a lot. If I had somebody else out there filming the entire observation, then it would be very easy for me to show, hey, look, they pulled this out of the middle of this observation, but I don't have that footage. And again, that's something that they told me they would give me, and now they've gone back on their word. And they also told me that they would deal in all honesty, and they would deal on a face-to-face basis, and that they wanted to do everything on the up and up. And then they go and do this. So, real quick, I will read you first an email that I sent to Caroline and Daniel. And basically, we've gone back and forth numerous times. But at one point, I basically said, okay, here's what I need from you. Because we're planning on going back out to this canal and doing some more observations from there. And I told them, I said, hey, I'm going to have people go back out there. And I said, but if I come out on my channel and say, hey, we're going to go back to this observation place, I said, people could very easily just say, well, you already proved curve. Why would you go back there? And I said, so you guys know, more than anyone. Daniel was right there. I said, he filmed the entire thing. So if anybody knew that nothing was conclusive that night, it was Daniel. 25 people walk away from that event all saying the same exact thing, yet the movie producer takes an out-of-place observation and tries to put it at the end of the movie as if it proved curve. That's just deception. It's deceitful. It's dishonest, untruthful. So, that's the problem with that. But anyway, I emailed them and I said, now remember, the first thing I'm reading, just so people understand clearly, I'm not reading the statement that they read. I'm about to read you the statement I asked them to read. Okay? So I said, this is what I assume the statement that I would want would look something like. And then I said, the following statement is in all honesty and all is very truthful. And I said, so I remember being hesitant about including myself in this film, and I can remember you guys speaking to me directly in North Carolina and Daniel speaking to me directly in Holt, California the night that I signed the document. I said, you both spoke about being in good faith and honestly portraying the people and events around this documentary. And I said, for the most part, you did a pretty good job in doing that throughout the movie. However, filming my neighbor's house, held up by cinder blocks and surrounded by stray cats as if it was my house, was not very honest. And obviously the final scene was completely dishonest. So here's what I told them I would think the statement would look something like. I said, to whom it concerns, on the night that we filmed Jeran's experiment, many observations were made, some that would lean towards a curved earth and some that would lead towards a flat earth. At the conclusion of the evening, everyone involved, this included both flat earth proponents and globe earth proponents, all agreed that nothing was proven or shown to be definitive. For our movie, however, we decided to place one such observation that leans towards a curved earth as the final scene of our movie. We did this because, then in parentheses, I said, insert whatever reason you would like here, end parentheses. We also had originally told Jeran that after the movie was sold that we would be able to provide him some of the footage from that evening. However, due to contractual obligations around selling the film, we can no longer provide said footage. Thanks kindly, the producers. So that's all that I wanted from them. I said, if you guys are dealing in all honesty, there's no reason you cannot write the statement exactly as I just said, because that is a truthful statement. Well, I want to read you what basically she came back and said. And then I did reply to her again and said, are you going to say the statement that I said or not? And her email was, please refer to my most recent email. You can read that for your subscribers or something to that effect. So let me read you what she said, and we'll go through it kind of piece by piece. So it begins off, hi, Jeran. I sincerely apologize for the delay in responding to your email. It's been a busy week, and I needed time to review the footage from the experiment before responding to you. So number one, they're already getting to review the footage that I can't even review. So, okay, great. You're going to review the footage, review it, and tell me what goes on. So anyway, she then continues. There were alignment attempts where the light was visible at both heights, 17 feet and 23 feet, and neither height, 17 feet nor 23 feet. There was only one moment where the light appears to be visible at only one height, a 23 feet, which is the clip used in the film. There were no results that yielded a flat result, namely the light shining only at 17 feet and not 23 feet. It's a little confusing what they're talking about. If you remember, at one point, Enrique, the guy at the far end, 4 miles away, is holding the light around his chest, and I tell him to hold it above his head. And he holds it above his head, and all of a sudden we see a little flicker of the light. Well, the problem with her, what she's saying here between 17 feet, 23 feet, etc., is that's a 6-foot difference. Well, it's not 6-foot difference from somebody's chest to holding a light above their head. But anyway, let's continue. So again, I'm back to her statement here. She said, the only possible explanation that would nullify the globe result, light visible at 23 feet and not 17 feet, is that there is an obstruction at the low height, 17 feet, and behind the curve you state that the person that was a globe believer was saying, isn't that proof the earth curves? Well, then the guy who was at the middle said, no, it's hitting the weeds. In addition, we included you saying, then we tried to do it again, like to replicate that result, and we didn't get the same result. There was just nothing that we could walk away from and say for sure was decided. Those two quotes were pulled from your Globebusters NASA Bashing 2.0 show and acknowledge that you concluded that there could be an obstruction and that you determined the results to be inconclusive. Both of these quotes from behind the curve appear at the 1 hour 34 minute mark in the film. Finally, we apologize for the confusion surrounding the shot of your neighbor's house. That shot is in the movie because you say like a laser for your cats, and we cut away to the cats watching you with the laser. It was not intended to look like your house at all since we are talking to you on your porch at that time. Please let me know if you have additional questions or if I need to clarify further. Again, I replied to this email and said, are you going to acknowledge that you promised to give me footage and now you're not? And they did, and she said, no, refer to my last email and you can read that word for word. So I just did that for you. Again, there's so much wrong with this statement, and this is why at this point they're dishonest at this point. When she's talking about the fact that it's hitting weeds, she's talking about a completely different observation. The hitting the weeds is the laser. Think about the end of that movie. If there's a light and somebody's saying, lift it up, put it down, well, there's clearly not weeds blocking the hole that we're seeing at 17 feet above the sea level, above the water level. So she's even confusing the observations. She's confusing the experiment. She's confusing the nights. Everything is all messed up. And at this point, it's just not worth continuing with them. They're not going to provide me with the statement that I wanted. So it's up to people. It's up to people for themselves to decide whether or not they think this was done in all honesty. Clearly, I don't think it was. Clearly, we didn't go out that night and prove the curvature. And I said interesting, and we all walked away and packed up our stuff. No, there were several more hours of observations after that, or maybe at least an hour, where other things were seen. Like we said, sometimes we'd say hold a light above your head, and we wouldn't see it. And then we would say, walk to the left, walk to the right, because basically there was a person that was standing in front of a panel or behind a panel, and we were trying to see whether or not we could see the light from that distance. So again, at this point, you have to understand that these people are not dealing honestly, and it makes sense to me, which is sad to say, but I understand why they can't make the statement that I want them to make, because that statement proves that their movie is a lie. So what do they choose instead? They choose to just continue on with the dishonesty so that they can bank off their movie. They can make money off of it. And you know what? I've said this before. I'll say it again. I thought it was a good movie. I mean, if I wasn't involved in it, if I was just some guy that happened to be on Netflix and watched that movie, I would think it was a decent movie. But the problem is when you're in it and you know that it's a lie, and you know how they've tried to turn Flat Earth to make us look like we're a bunch of crazies, and there's other scenes in that movie that are very questionable. The one where they happen to be at some event in Denver, and then they said, "Oh, coincidentally, down the street there's this astrophysicist meeting." And they go in there and they film that, and there's basically a guy standing up who's reading from a prompter of exactly what he wanted to say. We should really reach out to flat earthers and show them that the Earth is as great and beautifully spheres, and whatever. I haven't seen the movie more than once, so I don't remember exactly the words that were said, but that's a very coincidental thing where you happen to be in Denver, you're down the street at, I don't know if they were at a Flat Earth meetup, and then down the street there. No, well, they contacted these people, told them what they were doing, and they got together at a bar to speak about Flat Earth. That's what happened. So this movie had a point. And one of the things about Caroline that I didn't find out after, and again, this is why I always tell people do research and look into things, because if I would have seen this ahead of time, man, would have red flags gone off. But Caroline has produced another movie, and that movie is about how insane it is for anyone to question the Sandy Hook narrative. So if I would have seen that, then you would know what's behind these kind of documentaries. And again, you can believe those things if you want. And I have no problem if you want to believe in the Sandy Hook, that's fine. People are free to believe whatever they want, and people are free to question whatever they want. Unfortunately, people like YouTube, Google, and other such social media sites are not in that same boat anymore. They do not feel that people should be allowed to question their government. If you question the government, bad boy. You question any attack on Americans, or you question anything, man, that's not good. There's people who questioned Jussie Smollett's attack account right from the get-go, and those videos were removed. Those people got in trouble for questioning the account of Jussie Smollett. Well, then we have a few weeks go by, and all of a sudden you find out that this guy basically paid his friends to jump him, and then turn it as if it was some sort of racist attack by people wearing MAGA hats in freezing cold Chicago. So this just goes to show that, yeah, you may have people out there who say you can't question these things, but questioning things is what is supposed to keep the government away from ever becoming tyrannical. And when you don't question things, then you're basically creating an open platform for them to do whatever they want. And if they need to take guns away from people, well, then you just, maybe an event happens and all of a sudden they're able to tell people and train, change the mind of society into thinking, oh, yeah, we need to get rid of this. We need to get rid of guns. We need to get rid of MAGA hats now. I think Alyssa Milano tweeted recently that the MAGA hats are the new KKK hood. I mean, just stuff like this. It's just such nonsense, and it's so sad that people fall for it. And again, this movie is nothing different. And so to the Flat Earth community out there, you're believing in a movie. And to the Globe Earth community out there who have made video after video, Jeran proves the curve, Bob proves curvature, or Bob proves that it spins, whatever, all this nonsense. These people are so desperate for any evidence that can lead them to the conclusion that they live on a spinning ball in outer space, flying at crazy speeds, and the sun is 867,000 miles wide, and they're just dying for anything that proves their tightly held religious beliefs. So desperate, in fact, that they're willing to base everything on a movie. And again, as I mentioned on Globebusters, isn't it funny that everything that we've ever done all these guys do nothing but call us liars. Jeran's a liar. He does this for money. He doesn't believe in the flat earth. He doesn't believe it for real. He's fooling people. He's tricking you. He's a scam artist. All this stuff until there's a movie that comes out that says with one little scene, oh, interesting. And then all of a sudden, oh, they jump all over that. Now Jeran's being honest. Now he's telling the truth. Now we should listen to him. He proved the curve. It's just such crap. So, I mean, again, imagine being me and seeing what they've done and continue to do. And, people believe that Japan and Hayabusa 2 has landed on a half-mile wide asteroid, and it's going to bring back 1/23rd of a U.S. dime of dirt. And from that dirt, we'll then be able to reconstruct how our Earth came together 4.5 billion years ago. Are you kidding me? People will believe anything, and I mean anything, that mainstream puts out there. That's the sad fact, and people need to realize it, that the entire country is hinged upon what the mainstream media says. If mainstream media says flat earth is ridiculous, then the country's going to believe flat earth is ridiculous. And my job as a YouTube creator, somebody who likes to make a channel, who likes to talk about my opinions of the world, who likes to talk about my truth and the way I see it, and that's what freedom of speech is. And so I just continue to do that, but it will always be ridiculed. And that's what I think people miss the point. So if you're a flat earther out there and you think, oh, Globebusters was paid and they're shills, then, I feel bad for you. And it has completely destroyed your credibility, not to mention the credibility of Daniel and Caroline as well. So, that's basically what I wanted to say about Behind the Curve. But again, what are you going to do? I'm not going to worry about it anymore, so you won't see me talk about it anymore because it's a freaking movie. It just sucks that now it showed up on Netflix, and I'm getting, text messages from friends that I haven't talked to in several years and family that I haven't talked to in a long time, and all of them saying, well, did this actually prove that the Earth is curved? And I have to tell them, no, it didn't. Well, what do you mean? Even my mom was shocked. Well, isn't this a documentary? I don't understand how. What do you mean that they lied about the end scene? I said, well, and then I have to explain to my mom, what's going on. And she's like, oh, it just seems like, can't you sue them? Yeah, sure, Mom. Do you have a lawyer? Do you have a lawyer and a bunch of money that I can go sue them for misrepresenting me in this movie? Do you have a lawyer that can sequester the other footage? No, and they know that I don't have the money to do something like that, nor the time, nor do I really care. It doesn't matter how many Behind the Curve movies come out. It's not going to make the Earth a ball. That's the way I look at it. The Earth is flat and stationary. It does not move. Do we know the exact dimension of it all? No, but we don't make claims either. We're not the ones that are out there making claims, telling people that they're landing on asteroids. We're not the ones telling people that we landed on the moon 50 years ago and we just can't go back now because we threw away that technology and it's hard to get it back. And we're not the ones telling people that we have to go through the Van Allen belts. We got to figure out how to do that before we can go to the moon. Yet we did it 50 years ago. We're not the ones telling people that, oh, well, the craft that took us to the moon is so thin that you could push your finger through it and it will pop out the other side, which was said on Globebusters yesterday in a documentary about the moon landings and how thin the walls were of this craft that went through the extremely deadly radiation belts. How in the heck would they go through that with a lining on the wall that's 2 sheets of tinfoil thick? It's ridiculous. It's just ridiculous. We're not the ones making those claims. We're not telling people, oh, your sun is 867,000 miles wide and 93 million miles away. You won't catch flat earthers saying that. You won't catch them telling you how far the sun is away because the sun that you see is in apparent position. You can't calculate an apparent position. It's the same thing of trying to calculate how far something is in a mirror. You can't. It's a reflection. It's not. You can't calculate how far that is. And if you have 2 people in a room and you try and triangulate how far something is in a mirror, you're going to get different results, which is exactly what happens on Earth. You don't get the correct results when you triangulate the sun. Globe Earthers will tell you that. They know that they can't use triangulation to figure out the distance of the sun or the moon because the moon and the sun are the same size in the sky. So you have to know the distance or you have to know the size of something to figure out its size like they say that they do. But if you don't know either one, all you can do is guess. And that's what it is. It's all a guess. And, the Earth has to be 93 million miles away from the sun, and the sun has to be 867,000 miles wide in order for it to make its huge journey that it does throughout the year like they tell us. That's the only reason that they have those facts. There's no proof of that. That's why one of Nathan Oakley's house cleaning or housekeeping items is, do we have any proof of the distance of the sun? Because there is none. It took somebody looking up at the sky, seeing Venus, which is a little light in the sky, and saying, well, if Venus is the same size as Earth, and then continuing on with a bunch of nonsense. Well, what happens today? Now today, it just so happens that Venus is the same size of Earth. Well, it has to be. It has to be for all their other nonsense to work. But we can reduce the size of Venus. We can bring it all the way closer and all the way smaller, and everything else adjusts perfectly. It's called, now I can't think of the word, invariance. Anyway, I have a video about it, but I'm drawing a blank right this second because I'm also trying to get to the next break and tell everybody that here in a second we're going to be taking a break, and then I'm going to be taking phone calls. So if you want to call in, 213-233-3998, but we will be dropping off my channel here momentarily. Again, I mentioned that at the beginning. That's to protect myself from any people who feel like calling in and cursing or saying some racist stuff to try and get my channel a strike. It won't work because if you call in now, you'll be on the radio at Truth Frequency Radio. And then also we'll be simulcasting on Ginger Sugarbush 905's channel, and all those links are in the description. So come on over. We'll talk some more about this if we don't have any phone calls, but if we do, I'll be taking phone calls, and we can discuss. If you have questions about the documentary or the movie, you can call in about that. If you've got any other questions about the observations that we are going to be doing soon, if you have questions about the ring laser gyro that Bob talks about in the movie, if you have questions about the movie at all or the situation, or maybe I didn't make something clear, all that stuff is open for conversation, but we'll try and keep the calls short and to the point so that I can try and get through all of them because I haven't done a good job of that lately. So how much time do I have before? Let me check my... Oh, we got a few minutes, so that's good. So what else is going on? We do have about 10 callers lined up already, so we will get to everyone. Just stay calm until we get back from the break. And I did see another super chat. I should hit that one too. Thank you very much from... why can't I scroll down? It's weird. There we go. Yeah, somebody, Conflect says, if our government is bombarding us with certain information, be sure that it is a lie. Man, I can't disagree with you on that one. If they tell me something's bad for me, I'm guessing it's good, Same thing with like fluoride. Oh, fluoride's so great for your teeth. Make sure you drink it. Make sure you swallow this liquid that we've now done, across the country. We made sure that it's mandatory. It is in your public drinking water. So good for you, for your teeth. But it's like, well, what about when I swallow it? Oh, that? Yeah, that could cause some lower IQ. It could cause a lot of problems. But the good thing is that if you get it on your teeth, it might help your teeth just a tiny little bit. Well, no, that's okay. I'll be happy with my brushing. I don't need your fluoride. And yeah, if you want to see how good it is, go to a grocery store and see how many toothpaste you can find without fluoride. Most grocery stores, there's none. You got to go somewhere special to get it, maybe Amazon or something. But I'll do another video on that because I make my own toothpaste, which works great. I use distilled water to brush my teeth. I drink only distilled water. I use spring water that's gone through a filtration process, even to cook. But I'll do a video on that and tell you guys about the distiller that I use. It's helped me lose 25 pounds, even from the date of that movie, which is, by the way, thanks, Mom, for that. My mom knew that I was losing weight. She'd seen me around the holidays and everything, and she asked me recently, she says, how much weight have you lost since that movie? I'm like, why don't you just say that I'm a fat ass? Why don't you just say that, Mom? So anyway, it's been about 25 pounds since that movie, but I owe a lot of that to distilled water and just eating healthier and obviously getting rid of fluoride. So just pointing that out, that there's so many things that we're told that are actually good for us, and I would seriously doubt some of those things. But again, each person can believe what they want. If you think that's crazy and you think fluoride is great, then go buy yourself some Crest toothpaste and get yourself some mouthwash, and just notice on the little label there that it says call poison control if swallowed. Then remember that you swallow water when you drink it from your face. Be right back, guys. Don't go anywhere, or actually hop over to Sugarbook 5. See you on the flip side. This has been Jeranism RAW.
Censorship and regulation is becoming an ever-growing problem in today's modern media. From the mainstream to YouTube and Google, the information you're looking for is buried by official narratives and propaganda. This is why TFR is 100% uncensored, unregulated, and listener-supported. The shows on TFR are not micromanaged by the station, and our hosts are free to speak their minds however they please. As such, the views and opinions expressed on our station are of those who make them. If you happen to hear anything offensive on TFR, please send us an email to toughtitty@tfrlive.com, and we'll be happy to tell you that we really don't give a damn. We stand for freedom of speech and non-censorship. If you also stand for free speech, you can go to tfrlive.com/signup and sign up for a TFR supporter pass and help us in our mission to keep the airwaves uncensored and unregulated. TFR Live, your uncensored and unregulated protection from deception.
Cardinal found guilty. Hanoi Summit. I'm Evan Haining. One of the most powerful men in the Roman Catholic Church was found guilty of multiple child sex offenses in a secret trial in Melbourne, Australia last December. Now the court is making public the details of Cardinal George Pell's crimes against two 13-year-old boys, molested moments after he said Mass.
Details about the trial emerged today after the court had forbidden any information from being released to the public until now. Pell was convicted of abusing the two boys in a rear room of Melbourne's St. Patrick Cathedral when he was Archbishop. The 77-year-old faces a maximum of 50 years in prison. His sentencing hearing begins on Wednesday. I'm John Stolness.
Superstar R. Kelly had to stay in jail all weekend because he couldn't raise bail. Now the Chicago Tribune reports a woman from suburban Romeoville, Illinois, posted the $100,000 Kelly needed to be freed while he awaits trial on sex abuse charges. Court records show a 47-year-old woman who identified herself as a friend signed the bond slip. On Wednesday, President Trump and North Korean dictator Kim Jong-un will hold their second summit in Hanoi, Vietnam.
Kim Jong-un arrived this morning, given a hero's welcome as his train crossed the border from China. That in itself is an event, the first time a North Korean leader has come to Vietnam in 54 years. President Trump arrives late Tuesday night, and the White House has disclosed he and Kim will have dinner Wednesday evening before business meetings on Thursday. The business at hand: how far will Kim move toward denuclearization, what the U.S. might offer in return, and a possible official ending of the Korean War. Bob Costantini, Hanoi.
Spanish-language television network Univision says a news team led by its anchor Jorge Ramos was detained in Caracas, Venezuela, while interviewing President Nicolas Maduro. Univision says their broadcast equipment was confiscated and the team was taken into custody because Maduro did not like their questions. Univision is a U.S. network. The State Department is insisting on their release. I'm Evan Haining.
This is the Truth Frequency Radio Network.
We are TFR. Truth Frequency Radio.
On the weekday, don't be surprised, don't be surprised. Walk like us. They even talk like us. Walk like us. But they are not like us. On the weekday, you can see the signs, you can see the signs. They wear the disguise. Look into the mind's eye. There's nowhere to hide. Don't stick all the lies. Whispers from afar.
Welcome back. You are listening to Jeranism Monday Night Raw. We're over on Truth Frequency Radio. This is the #1 show on Truth Frequency Radio. On Monday nights between the hours of 6 and 8 p.m. Pacific, and that's 9 to 11 Eastern Time. That is the #1 show, so you are listening to that. Thank you for tuning in. I appreciate it. One other thing I wanted to mention, and I'm not sure I'm going to do a video on it. I could if people wanted me to, but I think there's enough videos out there. But if anybody's somebody who's at home a lot and they want to look for a way to make money, something that Miss has been doing for the last, I don't know, probably it's over a month now at this point, is working for DoorDash, and I'm absolutely shocked at how much money she's making. And she loves it because she just goes and picks up food from some local fast food place. I'm certainly not recommending that you eat that. That's not good for you. But people who do eat it order and don't want to leave their house, and so she goes and picks up the food and takes it to their house and drops it off. And maybe we're just in a good location because my house is kind of centrally located in the city that I live in Merced. So if you happen to live in Merced, California, and you order food from DoorDash, chances are you might see Missa pop up to your door with your delivery. So if she does do that, maybe you can give her an extra tip. No, I'm just kidding. But no, it's a great little program. She's got a little app on her phone, and she sets her schedule, and so we kind of match our schedules together. When I'm working, she works, and she just gets an alert on her phone and leaves and goes and picks it up. And while she's out, she'll get another alert. And I think it might be because we live in a city with a college, and most of her deliveries are out to the college, which isn't far from my house. So I think we live in a great place. But yeah, she's able to make $80 to $120 a day. And she's not even working very many hours. It's insane. So anyway, just a thought out there. If people are looking for a way to work, maybe you can ask me some questions if you want about it. But it's quite simple. You just go on the app, and you have to apply, and then they do a background check or something, and then they send you like a goodie bag full of all kinds of stuff that you can use. A little hot bag to keep the food in, and that's it. That's all you need to do. And the app tells you, da-ding, da-ding, tells you where to go pick up. You hit accept order. Go pick it up from wherever, and it could be anywhere. She gets deliveries from McDonald's, Jack in the Box, Thai noodle places, Five Guys, you name it. And goes, picks up the food. Here's the crazy thing: they even give her a little credit card. I'm not sure how it works exactly, if they turn it off when she doesn't have an order or something. But she goes to the restaurant and pays with this credit card, and it just never had a problem. It always pays for the food, and then she goes and delivers it to the person. There's no money that exchanges hands. It's not like she has to carry a bunch of cash on her and make change. And no, it's all done through the app. Incredible. Whoever came up with this idea. If somebody would have told me, Jeran, you want to go in on a business where we'll have drivers out there who will deliver fast, I'd be like, are you crazy? That will never take off. Well, that shows you my intelligence, because obviously it did. Let's go to the phones. We have lost a few callers, but we've got a few on here. Let's go to the first call. You're on with Jeranism Monday Night Raw from the 817 area code. Who's this? Hello, caller. Yep, there you go. I can see you. You there? Hello, the person who's been on the phone for about an hour. I hear some talking. Do you hear me? You're on the phone. 817 area code. This is another reason that we don't do this on my channel, because it's exciting radio broadcasting. All right, I'll come back to you in a little bit if you remain on hold, but you didn't pick up. So let's try the next caller from the 208 area code. You're on with Jeranism Monday Night Raw. Who's this? Where are you from?
Hey, this is David from Idaho.
What's up, David? How are you?
Good. I just wanted to talk to David, but he's not here. And he might be listening, and he might listen to this next week. But I opened my app to find out that we had 12 zodiac signs on our app.
Did you like that?
And I was just wondering why the 13th sign was not on there.
That I don't know. You'll have to check with him. I know that Andrew from Friends of Yahweh's YouTube channel is the one who did the artwork. But what did they add a 13th sign recently or something? Or I heard about it, but I forgot what it.
There's always been 13. It's the sidereal astrology.
Mm-hmm.
And it actually goes along with the calendar year. So.
Okay, well,
and there's
if you listen to last week's show, we had that guy John. And I'll ask him about it and see if he thinks we should add it.
There's a mathematician. He is at the Guinness Book of World Records for being the human calculator, and he has made his own calendar called the Human Calculator Calendar, which includes a 13-month calendar and includes a 0 day that would obviously be the 365 days that you would need for the year. And it just makes a lot more sense coming from him and seeing it on the.
What's the name of that guy? Because I think he has a website, right?
Yeah, his name is Scott Fansberg.
Yeah, I've actually.
Fansberg, sorry.
Yeah, I've actually heard of that guy, and I'll check it out. I'll look into it because I definitely think our calendar today is a forced calendar because of the heliocentric model. But that's great. Any other questions or concerns? But I will definitely relay that to Dave.
Just the one thing that I've been doing for the past 6 months is being on a ketogenic diet, which has changed my life. I've lost 20 pounds that I've been trying to lose over the past few years, and it's literally the inverse of the food pyramid that we all grew up on. So I mean, that's just another lie that we've been taught to.
That's when you don't eat carbs, right? And you do eat meat. Is that one?
That's correct. And actually, when you look at the food pyramid, they have sugar at the top, which is not accurate because sugar is a carb and it's at the bottom. So it's very, very deceiving.
Very interesting. All right. Well, I appreciate the call. Thank you for that, and glad you're losing weight and feeling healthier. That's the goal. So whatever method you're taking, as long as it's healthy, I'm all for it. So appreciate the call. I'll go back one more time to this call from the 817 just to check if they're going to tune in or not. Are you there? 817. All right. That's going to be it for you. I don't think I'm going to pick up that call again because they're not listening or something. How about we go to the 610 area code? You're on with Jeranism Monday Night Raw. Who's this? What's up?
Jeran, you're a beast, man. This is AJ from PA.
What's up, AJ from PA? I'm a beast. I appreciate that.
Dude, it takes a lot of courage to do what you've been doing, man. I really appreciate it.
Well, thanks.
Hey, I got a good question for you.
Shoot.
Okay, so from the 1969 unedited reel of the Apollo 11 when they're doing the window shot.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
When the lights come on, you see Michael Collins floating around. I've never heard anyone talk about this. Have you ever done any videos to kind of break that down? I've heard you and Dave kind of talk about maybe an area so high where you might begin to float. Just had a question. I don't know if you would consider it a good question, but to me it's like if they're faking it, why would they fake, floating around 0G? But what do you think about that? Have you ever thought about that or broke that down?
No, and sometimes people ask some questions that make me go like, wow, I didn't think about that. I've always considered that to be a little bit of one of those, I think that they purposely gave that footage to Bart Sibrel. The reason I say that is because he was making a documentary about the moon landings, whether or not we went. He asked for some footage. NASA sent it to him, and in that footage happened to be that particular clip. In my opinion, I said, well, maybe they sent that to him on purpose because they know that people out there are going to doubt the moon landings. That's going to happen. So they wanted, I think, hey, give them this so that the people who doubt it have something to go off of. But it does kind of prove orbit, right? It does prove, at least it shows that they're up there, they're floating around. So, but you're right. Now I think about it, I'm like, why would they if they're going to? Because clearly, I mean, if people haven't seen that, you have to see the movie. Something funny happened on the way to the moon. There's one scene there where clearly what they're doing is they are on the other side of the craft, and they're using the window on the other side of the craft to kind of shape a round Earth. And they're pretending as if the camera is up against the window and looking out into the blackness of space, but really they've just turned off every light inside the craft, and that they're on the other side of it filming out the window as if that round circle is the entire Earth, when really it's just a window of the Earth below it. So as far as them floating around, that's something I can't tell you I know about that because,
I guess more than one, I guess they had other people, in Houston watching their work. So I guess maybe they had to trick them too. It wasn't just the flight director who was in on it or whatever. But, I've heard Bart Sibrel. Go ahead. What were you going to say?
No, I was just going to say I have a problem with that a little bit because I would think that if there's some way to make them float like that. Now, my guess would be that they're in a parabolic flight. That's my guess, and you're exactly right about the reason for that. The reason is because they've got a bunch of people in Houston at consoles that they need to sell that this is real. But that would be my guess as to how he's floating. But yeah, that's the only thing. But go ahead.
I've heard Bart Sibrel a long time ago, he did an interview on a Flat Earth channel. Was that your channel? Was that you and your wife that interviewed him a long time ago, maybe 4 years ago?
No, I've never had Bart Seibel.
You would think, he denies Flat Earth. I mean, every time I've heard him say, it seems like all his interviews now, he always says the Earth is definitely round. You would think a guy that's been looking at this for 30 years, you would think and he's a Christian. He's like a super Christian.
Super Christian.
You would think he would be, you'd think he would, he'd be one of the generals like you and Dave, but he's not, and it seems like he's more disconnected.
Yeah, a lot of those people feel that Flat Earth discredits their other research. It's the same thing with Robert Sungenis. These people are not going to come out and say, "Oh, the Earth might be flat," because it kind of discredits a lot of what they've been saying. And in Bart Seibel's case, if he was sent a video that clearly shows them faking their distance away from the Earth, but in his mind, I think clearly shows them that there's a craft that's in orbit and that is causing 0G. That's where I think he has a hard time saying, "Oh, this must be fake too." But I totally agree. I just think that some people have done so much work in this department that it's going to be tough for him. So I don't expect him to ever become a flat earther. I think he's done a good job at the videos he's made and continues to make. And I've heard him on SGT Report with Sean. He did a great interview there. And you're right, he's super Christian. It's somebody that I would think would get on board, but maybe just not yet. And I don't expect it from him because he's got too much at stake.
Hey, I used something from you that I heard. I don't know how long ago you said this, but I kind of helped a friend open one eye with the whole, because he's real into botany, likes growing plants. He's been doing it for a long time. I said, hey, could you hold a flame to a plant? What would grow that plant? A light? And that was like all the things that I've talked to him before about, but that was the one thing where, it kind of piqued his interest. So I appreciate the work you guys are doing, and you and DITRH are like pretty much the only truth I have in my life right now. So I just want to thank you again, man, and I appreciate the call.
Hey, thanks so much. Appreciate you calling in and you listening to the show. And the shouts out, I appreciate that. And yeah, that's a great one. I mean, a lot of people miss that one, but we're told that the sun is some, flaming ball of hydrogen gas or whatever you want to call it. But yeah, go grab any kind of item on fire and try and put that next to a plant and watch it grow. It's not going to grow. But then again, you can get lights that do a great job at simulating the sun. So when people say that the sun is just a light or a reflection of a light, it certainly makes much more sense to me than this hydrogen fusion and fission going on in the sky and in a vacuum of space nonetheless. And that these guys can figure out that it takes, I think I've heard Lawrence Krauss say, it takes 1 million years for the light to get from the middle of the sun to the corona. I mean, it's just such nonsense. And what it is theoretical physicists, or physics, which is nonsense. How could physics be theoretical, and why we pay any attention to these people when, you can come up with all the theories you want, but when you start propagating that stuff as truth, I have a problem, especially when there's no way to prove it. So just because there's a light in the sky and you say, oh, well, then it must be the sun, and I don't agree with those things. So let's go to the next caller in the 720 area code. You're on with Jeranism Monday Night Raw. Who's this? Where are you from?
Hey, Jeran, this is Chris calling from Denver.
What's up, Chris in Denver? How's it going?
I'm doing good, man. How are you?
Oh, excellent. I can't complain.
That's great. So my question is with the ISS, it's constantly gaining speed because it's falling around the curvature of the Earth. Is that what you would say? Is that like what
I don't think? No, I think the globe. No, the globe belief would be that it's falling at a speed that always makes it miss the curvature of the Earth. So it's a consistent speed. I think that they say it's 17,500 miles per hour, and that at that speed, it's constantly falling, but always missing the curvature of the Earth by the exact same amount, and so it just continually falls around. And this all starts from this is why it's so sad, is this was a thought experiment by Newton, who said, if you put a cannon at the top of a ball Earth and you launch it too short, it'll just hit the Earth. If you launch it too far, it'll fly out into space forever and ever. But if you launch it just perfectly at the perfect speed, it would just continue to fall round and round the Earth and come back and hit you in the back of the head and continue going around and around. So I think that's what they say.
With weather satellites, with the United States, right? They have a satellite way up. I don't know how far. wouldn't that be in an orbit too? Because they say it's always in a stationary place, but it just, as anything that a globe says, right, like what a globe does not make sense for that, because it would have to be in some sort of an orbit, but instead it's just standing there.
Yeah, so they say that it's actually so far away, I think it's like 22,000 miles away or something. It's so far away that its speed that it falls around the Earth is equal to the spin speed. So, excuse me. But that's what they say. I mean, this is the thing. It's just nonsense to me. I mean, it's such a make-believe land. You can just go watch Nathan Oakley stuff or my video on, gas pressure next to a vacuum. I just don't think the Earth can exist in a vacuum or next to a vacuum without all the clouds and all the gas that we breathe every day just being sucked off. I also don't believe that, my cell phone is connecting with satellites 22,000 miles away and giving me GPS directions. Now, a lot of people believe that, and they say, oh, that GPS satellite is just sitting there in the sky. It's in stationary orbit or geostationary orbit. In my opinion, it makes much more sense that that's simply on a balloon, that it's high enough up that, it just stays in that same spot. So anybody, say, in the central United States, that satellite above them would always remain above them, and that can be controlled. We know that. I've seen tons of videos from NASA saying that they launch upwards of 50 balloons a day, number one, and number two, that they have balloons that can stay up for over a year, and they can remain in the exact same location, or they can move wherever they want them. They can even basically give them more helium, or actually I think they use hydrogen gas, but it can, add some hydrogen gas if the balloon starts to drop a little bit. It can vent a little bit if the balloon gets too high. So I don't see any problem, and I think it's much easier and so much cheaper when you think of the price of launching one of those balloons, even if it's $50,000, $100,000. When you've convinced people that this, satellite up there is going to cost $150 or $250 million to send up there, then it's not out of the question that they send up a balloon once every couple months, or that there's 6 or 7 balloons in one area. It wouldn't surprise me. It really wouldn't.
And the thing that doesn't make sense too is when you're on an airplane, right? The airplane's only 30,000 feet. You're pretty much moving the same speed as a satellite almost, and I don't know how far, a whole ton more than a 22,000 satellite, right? You're only 5 miles, let's say, in the air on an airplane, and instead of 22,000 miles, and you can't even connect on a plane. Doesn't make sense.
No, it certainly doesn't. No, and the planes that get lost, or the planes that can't be tracked across the oceans, no, it doesn't make a lot of sense to me. But then again, if it's a flat Earth kind of idea where the southern oceans are much more expansive than we've been taught, then it does make sense to me that it would be very tough to put up balloons in that area, considering people don't even know that area necessarily exists, because it's been erased and redrawn with the longitude and latitude lines. And so, and again, I've explained before that if you take a piece of paper and you draw some continents on it, and then you try and wrap that into a ball, that the problem with that is you have a whole bunch of extra space. And since they couldn't get rid of land features, I don't think that would be as easy as you would think. They would have to get rid of the water. And since most of the continents are in the north, that would leave the south with a bunch of water, and it would be very easy to eliminate that water. And then you create GPS, and then you make all these boats and planes fly within the parameters set by GPS, and nobody would ever know that the other oceans exist. Now, there might be an occasional plane that gets lost out there, which is my theory on MH370. And again, I've got lots of evidence about that, as far as boats going out there and searching for that missing plane, and then being missing themselves for 3 days from GPS. They just dropped off the map, and then they come back, and it's like, hey, where were you guys? Oh, we were out there looking for that plane. Well, how come you weren't on GPS? Well, could be that they ventured out into that area that is not on GPS, and then I try and follow it up with those guys who made that report and the guys that were on that boat, and they've been silenced. So there's a lot of interesting stuff about that. And again, we talked about it yesterday on Globebusters, as far as undersea cables, the communication cables that use fiber optics that we all communicate through right now, as far as the internet and all those cables. No cable has ever been run from New Zealand or Australia to South America. They all go up along the Japanese coast and around towards either across to Hawaii or up towards Alaska, and then down the United States. And again, if what we're talking about is true, that there's more expansive space down there, then that would be the case. And then also with cruises, there's no cruise that goes directly across there, and it's the same thing. If that's much more area than we've been told, then any cruise that tried to take that journey would find out the hard way that they've been lied to about how far that distance is. So, no, I totally agree. Any final
man. All right. Well, thank you, man.
comments?
Thank you for your time.
All right. We will talk to you soon. Appreciate the call. Sorry, I had to get a drink of water there. How much time? We have 4 minutes and 44 seconds. We'll try one more time to this call that's been on hold for 70 minutes now in the 817. Are you there yet? All right, I don't know. Can I drop? I don't want to drop the call because they may be listening to the show on the phone. I don't know. Let's go to the 843. You're on with Jeranism Monday Night Raw. Who's this? Where are you from? There you are.
Hello, Jeran.
Hey, what's up?
Hey, my name is Warren. I'm calling from South Carolina here on the East Coast.
What's up, Warren? How's it going?
Hey, pretty good, man. I found your videos a couple years ago and was doing some research on my own and to try to prove to myself whether NASA was telling the truth. And it led us kind of down the same rabbit hole some of these other people have gone down. I got a few questions I wanted to ask, and they're mostly a topic. One was basically about the same thing you're dealing with about the expanding universe and the vacuum of space not contradicting our atmosphere. If the balance of the universe expands fractionally, just even an inch, wouldn't that put such a vacuum on our atmosphere that the plants, the cows, everything that generates any gas can't possibly keep up with that?
Great point. Yeah, absolutely great point. Yep. There's such a problem with that expanding of space. I don't think there's any possible chance that it's true. Not when you go back and you see, like the video I did with the quotes, not when you realize how they got to their conclusions and how they decided that. It really came down to all observations tell us that we're the center of the universe, that everything's moving away from us, and they don't even argue with that. They just simply said, well, based on modesty, we cannot be the center of the universe because then somebody must have put us here and we're all accidental, and, you know, evolution is true, and so we all came from nothing, and so that would be impossible for us to be in the center of the universe. So they had to go out and come up with another explanation, and the only explanation somebody came up with is yeah, you put a bunch of dots on a balloon and you blow it up, and then all of a sudden all those dots are moving away from each other equally. And again, there's no evidence or proof of that. It's just their worldview. They cannot have it be that we're in the center, so they said, no, this balloon, expanding universe, expanding space, it's moving faster than the speed of light, even at the outer edges. That's what they went with, and yeah, I don't think there's any possible chance that any of that is true. I mean, even if I do an experiment or an observation, and let's say in the future I prove to myself that the Earth is curved, somehow I concoct some experiment and in some way show that water actually does curve. Let's say that I show that. That's one thing. I would be able to admit, okay, possibly the Earth is a sphere. But then as far as the expanding universe and all these planets, all that stuff, there's no way they could provide evidence of that. They don't have any. There's just none. So, yeah, I think that those things are outrageous ideas. They're just not even possible. And it goes to show you what scientists with that worldview will do to hold on tight to their dreams that we are accidental and that there's nobody smarter in the world than Neil deGrasse.
Yeah, the people that they say can tell you more about what you can see with your eyes. That's when you realize that they're either lying to you or they don't know themselves.
I like when Neil deGrasse says there's the universe is absolutely under no obligation to make sense to you. It's like, okay, whatever you say, guy. Yeah, so appreciate the call. Yeah. We got a break coming up here, so I'm going to let you go. But thank you very much for that call from South Carolina, I think. Uh-oh. Maybe, yeah, I think you were in South Carolina. I might have skipped a call. Maybe the person before you was South Carolina, but I think I'm correct. So anyway, we've got some more calls coming up. We've got about 6 people on the board, so we should be able to get a couple more than that, I would think, if you want to call in, 213-233-3998. But for now, we will be going for a little restroom break, cigarette break for those interested, or maybe some grapes in the fridge. Don't go anywhere. You're listening to Jeranism.
everyone, it's Chris Gio, founder of Truth Frequency Radio and host of Beyond the Veil. The mainstream media and establishment are running scared right now, and they've prominently featured TruthFrequencyRadio.com as number 89 on the federal government's hit list, also known as the fake news list, which is essentially a list of sites slated for censorship on Facebook, YouTube, Google, and other social media. Now is the time for you to get involved. Share your favorite TFR shows far and wide on forums and social media. Tell your friends and family about your favorite shows. If you're a business owner, get in touch with us to feature your product or service right here on TFR. And if you haven't done so already, become a TFR supporter now and get unlimited commercial-free downloads in high quality.
Visit truthfrequencyradio.com/sign-up.
Thank you for making TFR the leader in independent and uncensored talk radio. Truth Frequency Radio, your protection from deception.
Hey, it's Grace. Can we talk about something serious for a minute? Your age. Getting old has its perks. But remember, being a few years younger, you know, your hair was thicker, you didn't have so many wrinkles, that extra weight wasn't haunting you, and you just felt better. Well, we can't turn back the clocks and go back 10 or 15 years, but you can start feeling and looking 10 or 15 years younger with Nature's Youth RSF. It's a doctor-formulated daily supplement that helps your body maintain its peak performance and fight the aging process. Imagine sleeping better, looking better, and feeling better. See how Nature's Youth RSF has helped thousands of people just like you at nature'syouth.com. nature'syouth.com. Imagine how it will feel when your family and friends are asking you what you did to look so good. Your secret will be Nature's Youth RSF. It's time to start looking better and feeling better. Learn more and order your Nature's Youth RSF at nature'syouth.com. That's nature'syouth.com. That's nature'syouth.com.
True initiation is an inward journey. It's a spiritual path that is totally inward. It has nothing to do with anything external to you.
I want to determine if the Grand Architect is indeed what I believe it to be, which is the artificial intelligence.
The initiatory path is one of self-discovery and self-revealing. It's not a journey that someone can hold your hand through.
Tonight, ladies and gentlemen, I want to take you through the steps of initiation. Remember, you are divinity.
Step Beyond the Veil with Chris and Sherry Gio. Fridays and Saturdays, 7 p.m. to 10 p.m.
No hate, no hype, no fear. We are TFR, your protection from deception.
All right, welcome back. You are listening to Jeranism Monday Night Raw. Before the break, I was talking a little bit about the expanding universe and how funny that is, but I was just thinking how these, astrophysicists or these theoretical physicists, if you will, basically they just create this whole presuppositional and assumption-based idea, put it into a computer. If the Earth is a sphere and it weighs this much and the sun is this big and it weighs this much, what would happen if we rewind the clock? And that's basically what they tell everybody is the truth. It's not reality. It's just what they've come up with. But again, you have to presuppose all these myriad of things that have never been proven. And again, if that's how you want to base your truth, I've said many times before, I think we get one chance here. And, I'll be damned if I'm going to let some guys tell me that, on the count of modesty, that they're not going to place themselves in the middle, even though all observations show that, simply because they have beliefs in how long the Earth's been here and how long the universe has been here without any evidence or any proof at all. The strata layers that they consider are so much time, and yet there's entire trees that are growing through the strata layer. I mean, it's nonsense. It doesn't work at all. So, all right, let's get back to the phones. And one thing in particular here, we'll make sure that no more calls for David Weiss. It makes me feel bad. Okay, David's not here tonight, and that's a good thing. Riding solo, and nobody should call in for Dave, because who wants to talk to Dave? Nobody, right? That's the way I look at it, at least. I don't know. All right, and I'm going to skip a little bit here. I want to go to a call from my old stomping grounds. Is this caller from the 408 area code?
Hey, what's up? This is Andrea.
Andrea, how's it going? Are you in Morgan Hill?
Yes, Morgan Hill.
Awesome. Yeah, my old stomping grounds for sure. I know a lot about that. Cochrane and Tennant. Yeah, there you go.
Yep.
Have you ever heard of Galvin Park?
It sounds familiar. I know that it's around here somewhere.
Yeah, I can't remember exactly the location. I know it's off of Main Street a little bit, but that's actually named after my...
Oh, yeah.
Cool. So, yeah. What's up? Hey, were you at the experiment? Is this that, Andrea?
Yeah, that's actually why I'm calling, because I was at both of them, so I wanted to call in.
Hey, thanks. Long time no talk. How you been?
Yeah, pretty good. I feel like I watched the movie and I was really upset because I feel like they completely cut and edited the footage. So, yeah.
Man, I wish that you would have called in. I wish I could have had you somehow on my first part. Maybe I'll add this somehow to my little conversation, because, I didn't know if anybody that was there would call in and say that. But, thank you for saying that. I totally feel the same. It's kind of like, it's just when you feel like you've been lied to and deceived, and it's like, man, and when it's about you and you can't change it, and the movie's out there, and now I'm getting a bunch of people calling me and texting me, and of course people in the flat earth community, and I can't even show them footage to show, look here, it's just their word against mine, and I hope people believe me, but if they don't, what can I do?
Yeah, exactly. It's super frustrating.
Yeah, well, thank you. Great having you out. So go ahead.
Yeah, for sure. I was just going to say, if you guys are doing another test or whatever, I'd like to go and be a part of it and maybe help actually document what's going on.
Great. Yeah, I remember. And you brought your drone, right?
Yeah. I was still really new at flying it, so I was a little nervous about flying around people and stuff like that. So I'm definitely a little better at it now.
Okay, this phone number you called from, I actually just wrote down your phone number. That's the number I can reach you at?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, great. Yeah, that's awesome, Andrea. I appreciate that. I'm writing that down. I won't give it out to anybody, but I have it, and I'll let you know. Yeah, we might be doing another observation there soon, and would love to have you out there to help film and document what's actually going on.
For sure. All right, thanks. That's all I had to say. So
appreciate it. Take it easy. All right, so that was awesome to hear from her, and I remember her being at both experiments. So awesome to hear her voice and hear somebody else who at least backs us up with that's not at all what happened. And I can't imagine being somebody that was out there and watched the whole thing and then seeing the movie. They'll know exactly what I know. And there's only, she's one of the 20 of us, or 25 at the most, that can actually verify that. So it's their word against ours, but my whole hope is that people understand that it's a movie. And that's what movies do, and they have a point to get across. And clearly, like I said, if I would have looked up the information and seen that this girl went out and did things like bash anybody who questioned, Sandy Hook, and I've had so many people tell me, well, Jeran, what if your family was killed at Sandy Hook? How would you? And you know what? If people are questioning it, oh well, good for them. What do I care? It doesn't hurt me. If people are questioning that event, it doesn't matter. And if they find out something that I need to know, then that's very important. And so I love YouTube. I love the fact that people can question events and things in the news, because we know that many of them are just not real. So let's go to the next caller. You're in the 669 area code. You're on with Jeranism Monday Night Raw. Who's this?
Hi, Jeran.
What's up?
This is Brian from Sunnyvale, California.
What's up, Brian in Sunnyvale? All right.
And I was also at the second experiment, November 25th.
That's awesome for you guys.
I'm the Globe Believer.
Oh, you were the Globe Believer?
Yeah.
Oh, thank you for calling.
Okay, well,
wait, I want to make sure it's you. Do you remember us talking a lot about, you were going on and on about the moon landings, right? Somebody
else asked me about that.
Okay.
But yeah, I'm I'm an Apollo believer too. And to show that it's me, one of the things I remember saying to you, you had just done this Monday morning quarterback show, and I remarked, well, I thought I'd get off my urine-stained couch and
okay,
come
yep,
out
that's
here.
you. I remember that's you. Yeah.
Yep.
So, and I thought that there was other globe believers there, and I can't remember if that's true. I know that there was for sure you, and I thought there was about 2 more, but I don't know who those guys were either. But you were there, kind of in the mix the whole time, right behind me.
Yeah, in that last scene in Behind the Curve, when the music comes in, there's a voice in the background that goes, "Ooh," that's the voice right there.
All right, you made it in the movie. So let me ask you: do you think that the movie was correctly portrayed?
I thought they did pretty well. That if someone's making a documentary, I mean, what you read that letter and what they said, that was the one trial that got a clear result. We never saw Enrique's flashlight, any of the others.
In what in one?
So I don't see how it. Excuse me?
You said we didn't see Enrique's flashlight in any of the other what? In any of the other positions?
Any of the other trials.
Do you remember us?
Right. I mean,
do you remember us trying to replicate that result and it didn't happen the second time?
Yes. The way when I wrote this up days later, I said in about.
Hold on. So how could you say that they correctly portrayed, that documentary was portrayed correctly, if 2 moments later we couldn't get that same result?
Because it did happen.
So that's enough for them to put that at the end of the movie because of one observation in the middle of many?
And the others, as you never got the result predicted for a flat Earth.
No, we
did.
One
trial you got the result.
And nobody's ever claimed that. Nobody's ever claimed that, we had flat Earth results, but they changed it to globe Earth results. Nobody ever said that. I've never said that. What I said is they took one observation out of the middle of all the observations and made that seem like it was the finalized observation, that was the end of the night, they made it seem like that it was the end of the night. They didn't make it seem like, they were doing a lot of observations and we just took this one little segment out where Jeran says interesting and you say woo from behind it. But let me ask you this. Did we not both walk away from that test and say that nothing was proven? And if you disagree with
that.
As
I recall, I agreed with you in the field that it clearly proved. I did agree in the field with that. But the idea that someone making a documentary would not show that, of course they're going to show that. That's the one trial that worked.
No, but you're saying it's the one trial that worked because it's the one thing that showed what you want to be true. That's what you're saying. And you also you walked away from that experiment.
No, I mean, you had a stated prediction for what we should see on a flat Earth, a stated prediction of what we would see on a round Earth.
Are you talking about
one trial that got one of those observations was the one they showed?
Are you talking about with the laser? Or are you talking about with the...
No, with the flashlights.
When did we make any kind of statement as to what Go ahead.
In advance, when you were announcing this test, you said, this would be impossible on a flat Earth, this would be impossible on a round Earth. The one we saw was the one you said would be impossible on a flat Earth.
And then did we try and replicate that result, and did we get that result?
You definitely earnestly tried to repeat that, and we never saw the flashlight. I believe it was 3 miles out, not 4.
Yeah, I think we were at the gate, so we didn't go all the way back to the beginning, so we were at 3 miles, correct?
Right. And the question was whether we could see it through the hole in the panel that was 1.5 miles downrange.
When he was standing behind it with the light?
Does that sound right?
Well, no, he would have been all the way down.
So there was Stephen at the Stephen was at the 1.5 mile panel.
The guy,
and then Enrique was 3 miles down.
Okay, correct. But you said we were trying to see something at the middle. Well, we wouldn't have been. That wouldn't be proof of anything because we had.
We were trying to see. Right. We were trying to see Enrique's flashlight 3 miles away through the hole in the panel 1.5 miles away.
Correct. Okay. I agree with that.
Right.
And
then
then
one time we saw that, Enrique held it over his head. And on that particular trial, you said raise it, lower it, and it would disappear when he lowered it and reappeared when he raised it. But then you had Enrique step back to the side, Stephen his light in, and when you had Enrique back there, we never got that result again. I agree with that.
Right. Okay. Well, I do appreciate the call, and thank you for calling in, but I just have to disagree with your claim that you're saying that you saw that result, we couldn't replicate it, then we both walked away and said nothing was proven, but now you're saying that the movie correctly portrayed the result. I totally disagree with that, but great to have callers from both sides that were there at that experiment. I appreciate that. Let's go to the next caller from Denver in the 303. You're on with Jeranism Monday Night Raw. Who's this? Where are you from?
Long-time listener, sometimes caller. I was looking for David Weiss, but
damn it.
I didn't hear him any time during the show.
Why isn't your real name on this? Who's Perry?
Oh, does it show up as Mark Perry?
Yes, it does.
Oh, oh my God, that's amazing. That's with a because you were part of the same studio.
Right.
Chris put in the wrong name.
Yeah, it's just like when other people call that says, this is you, but it's like, no, that's not me. That's another caller.
Yeah.
So what's going on? For people who don't know, this is the infamous Mark Sargent.
Yeah, that is. And I've been enjoying the show, except for that guy.
Yeah, man. Well, it was funny because I was hoping, I would love to have heard from that guy, but very weird call for him to say, no, we walked away from that and said nothing was proven, and that we both agreed that we couldn't replicate that result, yet he was okay with the movie showing that as the final scene. And he said for a documentary, you would have to assume that they would show that. No, I would assume that for a documentary that they would show that, we pretty much failed at replicating anything that night. But then again, now that I know what the point of that movie was, and, I thought they did a good job, and maybe you'll have to tell me, do you think they did a good job showing you? I mean, were they any way to
there was something that you and I, because you and I haven't, we don't talk a lot, because we're both busy doing stuff. But there was something I should point out to people, and that was I was really curious to hear. I don't know if you ever did the director's commentary, which was only on the iTunes version, where Daniel and Nick.
Yeah, they gave me a code because I was trying to tell them, hey, I was in your damn movie. Can I watch it for free, please? I'm not going to pay for this thing. And eventually they sent me a code, but it was a code to rent it. So I don't think I got the editor's edition or whatever you're talking about.
Oh, well, it was. Doesn't really matter. And by the way, if you haven't gotten a ripped copy yet, just let me know and I'll shoot you something. Are we on air? Anyway,
I'm letting you know, Mark.
Okay, cool. Yeah,
I'll shoot it to you. Now you've also noticed. You wrote me today, just so I can bring that up real quick. You also noticed that a lot more people have Netflix than you originally thought, huh?
I was shocked.
Me too.
When, because we headed down to the LA conference just as this thing was coming out, and as you know, it was on iTunes and Google Play and Amazon Prime, which is no slouch, and YouTube also no slouch, and those just paled in comparison to when Netflix came out. When Netflix came out, apparently everybody has Netflix. I had no idea, and there's a ton of people that watch Netflix conspiracies, and it was showing, and then it started trending. So
yeah, there's people that have reached out that I haven't talked to in years that had no idea I did anything related to flat Earth and said, "Hey, I just saw you in this documentary. Did you prove the curve?" Everyone's wondering to prove the curve. My mom called me and said she's got friends coming over saying, "Hey, I saw Jeran on Netflix. I saw Jeran in a movie." So it's certainly shocking that all these people have never even heard of any of this stuff until it came out on Netflix, and now it's a big deal. So that's even more upsetting because there's some of these people, like I said, that that I would expect, I would hope to have an opening conversation with them and it not be that movie. But hey, at least they've heard about it now, and that's why I think that no publicity is bad publicity. I think you coined that phrase.
I mean, that's how even though sometimes it is bittersweet, and it was funny because I was the story that came out, and I shot you a message just a little while ago. I don't know if you got it. And I was saying sorry. It's like, I am so sorry. Newsweek is coming after you right now. And at the same time, as I'm writing, I'm going, that's kind of an odd thing to say because, back in 2015, we would have been shocked, say that, Newsweek would single out, the documentary and your experiment, and you haven't seen it yet, have you?
I've not seen that yet. I probably don't want to see it. Great.
Yeah, well, you will. but same in 2015, that wouldn't have happened. At the same, I was trying to kind of cheer you up because I feel like, not many people can say that Newsweek is coming after them that that aren't going to jail. So.
Yeah, I'm cheered up in the point that I just want people to be open to the idea. Check out my channel and the very many channels. Mark's channel, Flat Earth Clues, and to make up their own mind. Thing space rock, then that's their prerogative. I really.
Yeah, and there will be a lot of people that get into it because of the big Netflix push.
Right.
But I did want to get one thing. I'm sorry. There was, and you really should listen to it if you get a chance. The director's commentary again. It's on iTunes, and maybe I'll see if I can get a ripped copy of the audio. Sorry if Caroline's listening, but that's tough. Which is. They mentioned towards the end, and they let it slip towards the end, it was supposed to be, a human interest piece. They were focusing on the people, but that changed when they saw. I'll take some of the blame for this. Remember when I was doing the Q&A piece? I don't know if you were warming up or where you were, but remember that 12-year-old kid who was in the audience? He got up to the microphone and was asking me a question. I asked him how old he was and that whole thing.
Right, I was out.
That really affected. Yeah, that affected them. They noted that in the commentary. They said when we saw that kid there, it changed and it got a lot more serious for them, and that's when they decided to tweak it in a certain direction, which was okay. It's that whole think of the children, and I've heard this from different. I heard this from National Geographic, and I've heard this from other people, which was it's all fun and games until you start influencing kids. And like, really, that's the stance you're going to take, and that's when they all agreed that they were going to, angle it in a certain way. And I thought, okay, that's good. But yeah. So.
Very interesting. Very interesting. All right. Well, I'll have to check that out after. So it's in Newsweek, huh?
Yeah, it just came. It came out at the end of the day. It was one of those end of the day pieces, and it's from a guy. He already hates us. He's a real tech nerd guy, and so he broke down the experiment with graphics. And I'm sure you'll have fun with Globebusters next week or whenever the earliest you can get to it. But it will. I almost guarantee that there will be some lazy, because this is one of those pieces where other journalists are going to be lazy and they are not going to do their own version of it, so they are going to rip directly from this. So, but hey, good for you. Hey, Newsweek is singling you out, man.
Well, good for them, and yeah, my hope is too that they get a little bit of publicity this way, and then we go out and do some more observations and get back to Monterey Bay to do the mirror observation. And then I'll challenge them to come out and film the results of this test, and we'll see if they actually do or if they shy away from it and just continue to promote the results that were shown in a movie.
Nice.
All right, well,
anyway, if you want to talk offline, we can. I just wanted to call and make a couple statements that I think might help or make you feel better, because again, it is what it is, but no journey is without its valleys.
That's for damn sure. I couldn't agree with that more. All right, appreciate the call, Mark. That was Mark Sargent. Let's go to the next caller in the 916, very close to me. Is this Michelle?
It is. Hi, Jeran. You did very well unmuting before. Yeah, good job.
Thank you. I'm learning. I'm learning as we go. It's only been 3 years, so eventually I'll have this down.
Well, first of all, I wanted to just commend you on your bravery and for everything that you do, because all the trolls out there and the haters, it's like, what are you guys doing? I mean, I'm not doing anything. I'm out here cheering you guys on, but I can't even say like I'm really out there doing experiments or anything. And to expect somebody to be perfect every single time and get the result they're expecting every single time, that's insanity. That's what experiments are about, and you're actually out there doing it. So thank you for what you do, because it is helping.
The other thing is that we're doing it on such a limited budget. I mean, like I've said before, to do the test the way we wanted to do with the laser, keeping the beam diameter that we wanted, that laser is only $4,000. So when you're somebody like Newsweek, or you're somebody like Delta V Productions, or you're somebody that has the kind of funds that could easily do the test that we were trying to do, and set it up in a great way, why is nobody doing these experiments? Why are they just let's laugh at these flat earthers who tried it on a very limited budget, with basically no budget and with no team out there besides a couple of us that were doing it, and there was a bunch of people observing. But it would be great if we could have an actual team out there, or National Geographic to actually go out there, or the Independent Investigations Group to actually go out there and produce an experiment like people expect. You're right. It's too hard for people to expect me to be perfect on those experiments. I mean, hey, if I had a budget of $40,000 or something, you can bet your ass the experiment would be perfect. But I don't, and so people should expect to get what basically we pay for, which is we didn't pay anything to do that experiment. We drove out there and tried something. And to have it show up in a movie and then find out that it's on Newsweek and that they're going to try and talk about that experiment, I hope that they get it right. And I really hope that if they think it's a good experiment, which even the guy in the movie said, that guy that I've seen him on SpaceX's telecast before, whoever that little kid is, but he thought it was a good experiment too. Hey, get somebody who has some money to go out and do this and prove the globe. Go ahead. I dare you.
Yeah. Yeah.
But will they? I don't know.
Well, I have a quote for you.
Oh, I love
on that topic.
Peanut gallery. Let's go.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. It is the opposite of bravery is not cowardice, but conformity.
There you go.
And that is by Robert Anthony. He's an American organizational theorist and a professor of management control at Harvard Business School. So yeah, you are being brave, and you're putting yourself out there and putting this out there, and that you have my full support, and thank you.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate that, and I hope we get together again soon. Hopefully, you guys can strike up another meetup over there in Sacktown, and I'll definitely
I'm going to be working on that. We'll hopefully get that together soon. One last thing, fluoride is absolutely toxic. I'm a registered dental assistant. I'll tell you right now, I do not allow that in my office. I encourage my patients to decline it when they're at their dentist. There are plenty of studies that anyone can see.
Hey, time out real quick. Don't say you're not out there doing stuff. You're doing that. That's great. So definitely appreciate that. It's very great, because there's not a lot of people in that industry that are willing to stand up for truth, and they, they've been taught in school that fluoride's good for your teeth, and so they keep prescribing it, or keep putting it in toothpaste and giving it to children. So that's awesome to hear that there is a dental office out there that is at least telling people, hey, we recommend maybe you possibly pass on this.
Yeah, and I encourage doctors to look into the more recent studies that prove the neurotoxicity of it and how it lowers IQ and it causes hypothyroidism. Now, look at all these people with these thyroid issues directly related to increased levels of fluoride. I mean, get rid of it, people. Get a reverse osmosis filter. Get non-fluoridated toothpaste. You can get Tom's brand. Just do what you can to get rid of it. It's not good. Anyways, that's it. Jeran, you have a good night. Much love, and keep doing what you're doing.
All right, love you too, Michelle.
Thanks.
Bye. Peace. Hey, thank you for that. All right, guys, that was Jeranism Monday Night Raw. Appreciate everybody. I didn't get to all the calls because we talked to Mark for too long and some other things, but no, that's awesome to hear Michelle say that, and yeah, people really need to look into it. And yeah, a lot of people say, yeah, but there's only a certain amount in the water, but again, you don't pay attention to how much you actually drink. So they only put a certain amount in the water, and sure, if you only have maybe 2 glasses a day, maybe it won't hurt you, but I wouldn't say that. I would say that you don't want anything that lowers IQ and test results and that causes thyroid problems. I don't think you want that in your water, and especially in your mouth. Again, remember, you brush your teeth. That's the most sensitive place on your body, really, is your mouth. I mean, you can't, think of people who take acid, they drop it on their tongue, or they wipe cocaine on their gums and their mouth. That's how it immediately gets into your bloodstream, and that's what happens with fluoride when you brush with it, or rinse with it, or drink water. It's right in your mouth, and I suggest you don't do that. But again, if you choose to, that's on you. Till next time, guys, this has been Jeranism. Peace.
Truth Frequency Radio is your #1 source for news and information without the hate, hype, and fear. We're proud to feature cutting-edge programs like Beyond the Veil with Chris and Cherie Geo, X Squared with Brooks Agnew, Paranormal Portal with Brent Thomas, Jeranism RAW with Jeran and Missa, Fearless with Frank Castle, Strange World with Mark Sargent, The Eye of Ra with Ra Castaldo, The Infinite Fringe with Billy Ray, Ironworks with Josh Corey, The Kev Baker Show, and dozens more. Did you know you can listen from any telephone by dialing 641-793-7117 or call into your favorite show toll-free at 833-TFR-LIVE. Uncensored talk and news you won't hear in the mainstream media. Truth Frequency Radio, your protection from deception.